Marcus Reed, 42, strode swiftly down the courthouse hallway, his polished boots echoing sharply on the marble tiles. With 15 years of service, Marcus carried a fierce pride in his role. His uniform wasn't merely a badge of power, it was his means to assert dominance, particularly over those he deemed inferior. For Marcus, the law wasn't about safeguarding the innocent, but about controlling the unwanted. Today, he was tasked with securing a high-stakes trial. A black man faced theft charges, and Marcus had already judged him guilty. They're all alike, he thought. His mind set. As he moved through the corridor, his sharp gaze scanned the crowd. Lawyers, witnesses, court staff, until a black woman in a sleek business suit caught his eye, her poise unsettling him. The woman walked toward Marcus, her demeanor calm yet confident, radiating a quiet authority that irked him. "Watch it," he barked, his tone biting. She paused, visibly startled by his hostility. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get in your way," she replied softly, her voice steady. But Marcus wasn't satisfied. "Typical," he muttered, low enough to sting. "You people never learn your place." She didn't react, though a slight frown crossed her face, fueling his irritation. He stepped closer, arms folded, blocking her path. "What's your business here? This area's not for you," he snapped. She met his gaze, unfazed. "I'm here for court," she said, her words clear and composed. Marcus sneered, a mocking grin spreading. "Let me guess, you're here for the defendant, right? Or maybe you're one of those justice types always whining when someone gets caught," Marcus taunted, his voice dripping with sarcasm. The woman didn't waver, her eyes locked on his, steady and unyielding. The hallway quieted, onlookers sensing the growing tension. Marcus's smirk widened. He relished the control. "You don't belong here," he said coldly. "Get out." Her expression remained calm, almost distant. "I have every right to be here," she replied, her voice firm but measured. His temper flared. "I don't think so," he shot back. "You're not causing trouble on my watch." Without hesitation, he signaled 2 nearby officers. "Remove her," he ordered. The officers hesitated, exchanging uneasy glances, but Marcus's authority pushed them forward. "Please, leave," one said cautiously, stepping toward her. The woman stood her ground, unmoved, her gaze fixed on Marcus. She didn't argue or show fear, her composure unnerving him. Marcus's frustration spiked. "I said, get her out," he repeated, his voice sharper. The officers reluctantly grabbed her arms, pulling her toward the exit. Whispers rippled through the crowd as the scene unfolded. Marcus watched, a fleeting sense of triumph washing over him. As the door loomed, she glanced back at him, her eyes piercing. For a split second, Marcus felt an odd chill, a flicker of unease, but he brushed it off. "Just another black woman taught her place," he muttered, shaking off the feeling. The door closed behind her, and he stood tall, arms crossed, convinced he'd restored order. The hallway buzzed with murmurs. Marcus's moment of satisfaction faded as the crowd's whispers grew louder. He barely noticed, too consumed by his sense of victory. The woman was gone, and that was what mattered. But her final glance lingered in his mind, calm, almost defiant. He shook it off, turning back to his duties. The corridor felt different now, the air heavier. Some onlookers stared, others averted their eyes. Marcus ignored them, his confidence unshaken. "Back to work," he barked at the officers nearby, who nodded hesitantly. He adjusted his uniform, ready to move on, when a man approached. Leonard Hayes, 50, a renowned civil rights attorney. His face was stern, his voice low. "Marcus Reed," he said sharply. "Do you realize what you've just done?" Marcus's smirk faltered, his guard rising. I did my job, Marcus snapped, his tone defensive. She didn't belong here. Hayes's eyes narrowed, his voice cutting. You just expelled one of the most influential figures in this nation. He glanced toward the door where the woman had been escorted out. That was Dr. Vanessa Morgan, 38, Deputy Chief of National Security. Marcus froze, his arrogance cracking. The name hit like a shockwave. Dr. Vanessa Morgan, a high-ranking official. The hallway fell silent, the weight of his mistake sinking in. His face paled as Hayes continued. You've made a grave error. Marcus's mind raced, replaying the encounter. How could he have misjudged so badly? The crowd's murmurs grew, phones buzzing with the news. His world, once solid, began to crumble. Dr. Morgan's voice echoed from beyond the door, calm but commanding. I need a response team here now, she said into her phone. The words pierced Marcus, his body rigid with dread. Hayes, still watching him, spoke again. You'd better prepare an explanation, he warned. This is just the start. Marcus's heart pounded, the reality of his actions closing in. Onlookers whispered, some recording the scene. The incident was spreading fast. A voice broke his thoughts. Chief Justice Harold Vance, 67, his tone thunderous. Officer Reed, he bellowed. My office now. Marcus's stomach churned. He stammered, I was just doing my job. But Vance cut him off. Your job isn't to disrespect a federal official. Move. The crowd parted as Marcus's confidence shattered. Marcus trudged toward Vance's office, each step heavier than the last. The courthouse, once his domain, now felt hostile. His mind replayed Dr. Morgan's reveal, Deputy Chief of National Security. The weight of his error grew suffocating. He'd always seen his badge as a shield, granting him untouchable power. Now it felt like a noose. Whispers followed him, eyes judging. He reached the office, the air cold and silent. Inside, court officials waited, their gazes piercing. Sit, Officer Reed, Vance ordered, his voice like steel. Marcus complied, sweat beading on his brow. He wanted to speak, to justify himself, but words failed. The silence was crushing. Vance leaned forward, his eyes hard. The National Security Office has been informed. Do you grasp the severity of this? Marcus nodded, his throat dry, his thoughts a chaotic blur. You forcibly removed a federal official, Vance continued, his tone unrelenting. Do you understand what that means? Marcus's face burned, shame creeping in. He'd mistaken Dr. Morgan for a nobody, and now the room's reaction confirmed his catastrophic error. Phones buzzed outside. The story was already breaking. In minutes, his actions had ignited a firestorm. The door opened, and Leonard Hayes entered, his expression grim. Marcus, he said, his voice heavy with disappointment. I tried to warn you. Marcus muttered. I was doing my job. Hayes shook his head. Your job is to protect, not degrade. You've betrayed your oath. The words stung, each one a nail in the coffin of Marcus's career. Outside, the incident gained traction. Footage of Dr. Morgan's removal spread online, sparking outrage. Headlines began to form, Marcus's name tied to scandal. His phone vibrated with messages from colleagues. The brass is livid. His allies grew distant, their silence deafening. At the courthouse, the atmosphere shifted. Officers who once respected him now avoided his gaze. Marcus felt the walls closing in. Back in Vance's office, the Chief Justice's voice was cold. We've received complaints about you for years. Profiling, misconduct. This incident makes them undeniable. Marcus sat speechless as the reality sank in. His badge, once a symbol of power, now felt like a burden. The consequences were no longer abstract. They were here, and there was no escape. The office door creaked open again, and a court official handed Vance a file. "More complaints," the official said quietly. Marcus's heart sank further. The file was thick, years of grievances now impossible to ignore. Vance's eyes bore into him. "This ends today," he said, his voice final. Marcus's mind spun. He'd always believed he was untouchable, that his authority shielded him. Now, stripped of that illusion, he felt exposed. The courthouse hummed with activity outside. Reporters gathering, cameras flashing. His name was everywhere, trending for the worst reasons. A colleague texted, "They're coming for you." Marcus stared at the message, the words blurring. His world was unraveling, and he had no defense. The weight of his actions pressed down, unrelenting. Leonard Hayes spoke again, his voice steady but piercing. "You didn't just make a mistake, Marcus. You exposed a flaw in the system, one you've exploited for years." Marcus's jaw tightened, but he couldn't meet Hayes's gaze. The room felt smaller, the air thinner. Vance leaned back, his expression unyielding. "You're suspended, effective immediately, pending a full investigation." Marcus's breath caught, suspended. His career, his identity hung by a thread. He wanted to argue, to reclaim control, but the room's silence suffocated him. Outside, the crowd grew louder, voices demanding answers. The story was no longer just about him. It was about the system he represented. Marcus's pride, once his strength, now lay in ruins. The consequences were only beginning. Dr. Morgan's voice carried from the hallway, calm yet authoritative. "I need a full report by end of day," she said into her phone, her words a stark reminder of her power. Marcus's body stiffened, his earlier arrogance replaced by dread. Hayes glanced at him, his tone low. "You've crossed a line you can't uncross." Marcus's phone buzzed again, another message. "This is bad. They're talking lawsuits." The courthouse was a pressure cooker, every whisper amplifying his mistake. Vance stood, signaling the meeting's end. "You'll face the board tomorrow," he said. "Prepare yourself." Marcus nodded, numb, as the officials filed out. Alone, he sat, the weight of his actions crushing. His badge felt meaningless now, a relic of a power he'd misused. Marcus left the office, the hallway a blur of faces and whispers. Reporters hovered near the entrance, cameras ready. He avoided their eyes, his head low. The courthouse, once his kingdom, now felt like a trap. His mind replayed Doctor Morgan's gaze, calm, unyielding, powerful. He'd underestimated her, and it had cost him everything. A colleague approached, voice low. "They're tearing you apart online." Marcus didn't respond. He couldn't. His phone buzzed relentlessly, notifications piling up. The story had gone national. He reached the boardroom door where the review would seal his fate. His legs felt heavy, each step a reminder of his fall. The system he'd served had turned on him, and he had no one to blame but himself. Inside the boardroom, the air was thick with tension. Marcus sat, facing a panel of stern officials. Vance led the proceedings, his voice cutting. "Officer Reed, your actions have disgraced this institution. Explain yourself." Marcus opened his mouth, but no words came. What could he say? He'd assumed Doctor. Morgan was insignificant, and that assumption had unraveled his career. "I thought she was a threat," he mumbled, the excuse weak even to him. The panel exchanged glances, unimpressed. "You profiled a federal official," one said. "This isn't an isolated incident." The file of complaints sat on the table, a damning record of his past. Marcus's heart raced. His badge, his power, his identity, all were slipping away. The room's silence was deafening. The panel's questions grew sharper, each one peeling back layers of Marcus's facade. "Why did you assume she didn't belong?" one official asked. Marcus stammered. It was a mistake. But the room wasn't buying it. Vance leaned forward. "Your mistakes have consequences, Reed. You've embarrassed us all." The door opened, and a clerk handed Vance a phone. He listened, then nodded grimly. "The National Security Office demands a public apology," he said. Marcus's stomach dropped. Public apology? His pride recoiled at the thought. Outside, the media frenzy intensified, headlines branding him a bigot. His name was poison now. The panel dismissed him, promising a verdict soon. Marcus stood, legs unsteady, knowing his career was over. The courthouse, once his fortress, was now his prison. Marcus returned to the hallway, the weight of his actions suffocating. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashing. He pushed through, head down, their words a blur. Back in his office, he sat, staring at his badge. It felt foreign now, a symbol of a life he'd lost. His phone buzzed. A message from a friend. "They're calling for your resignation." The words stung, but he couldn't deny their truth. Dr. Morgan's face haunted him, her calm authority a stark contrast to his reckless arrogance. He'd believed himself invincible, but one moment had shattered that illusion. The board's verdict loomed, but Marcus already knew the outcome. His career was finished, and the world was watching. The consequences of his prejudice had arrived, unyielding. Marcus sat alone, the office silent except for the faint hum of his phone. Notifications piled up, angry comments, news alerts, colleagues distancing themselves. The story had exploded, his name synonymous with scandal. He thought of Dr. Morgan, her poise under pressure, her power undeniable. He'd misjudged her, and it had cost him everything. The board's decision was hours away, but the verdict was already clear. His badge, once a source of pride, now felt like a curse. The courthouse buzzed outside, the world moving on without him. Marcus's mind raced, searching for a way out, but there was none. His actions had built a cage, and he was trapped inside. The weight of his mistake was unbearable, and it was only the beginning. Leonard Hayes re-entered the boardroom, his gaze heavy with disappointment. "Marcus," he said, voice steady but sharp, "you didn't just err today, you betrayed your oath." Marcus slumped, his defiance drained. "I was doing my job," he muttered, the words weak. Hayes shook his head. "Your job is to protect, not humiliate." Outside, the story exploded online. Activists rallied, headlines vilified Marcus, and social media buzzed with outrage. His phone vibrated. "You're finished." Colleagues who once stood by him now turned cold. The courthouse was a pressure cooker, scrutiny suffocating. The board prepared its verdict, Marcus's career teetering. His name, once a badge of authority, now symbolized scandal. The world watched, ready to judge, as the consequences of his actions closed in. Chief Justice Vance stormed in, a thick file in hand. "Officer Reed," he said, voice icy, "we've reviewed years of complaints, profiling, misconduct. This incident was the breaking point." Marcus stared at the floor, speechless. His past sins weighed heavy. "You're dismissed permanently," Vance declared. "Your behavior is unforgivable." An officer handed Marcus a box. With shaking hands, he placed his badge and gun inside. The sound final. His career was over. Outside, reporters swarmed, cameras flashing. "Regrets, Reed," one yelled. Marcus pushed through silent, his world in ruins. The courthouse, once his stronghold, now stood as a testament to his fall. Clara Evans, 52, a community advocate, watched from the crowd, her calm gaze signaling justice served. Marcus's arrogance had met its end. At a busy precinct, Sergeant Daniel Brooks, 39, looked up as James Carter, 45, entered, his face taut with fury. "You're holding my wife," James said, voice sharp. "Release her now." In a cell, Alicia Carter, 36, sat cuffed, her expression stoic but her eyes blazing. James walked in, his gaze softening. "Hey," she said, her voice low, heavy with meaning. He knelt, seeing her wrists, red from the cuffs. His jaw tightened. "Still cuffed?" Alicia's lips curved bitterly. Protocol for black women buying coffee. James stood, his anger controlled but fierce. "I'll fix this," he said, turning to confront Brooks. The precinct grew quiet, officers sensing the storm. James's resolve was unshakable, his mission clear. Alicia would walk free and justice would follow. The board's verdict at Marcus's hearing was final. "Marcus Reed, you're guilty of repeated misconduct," the chair stated. "Dismissal is permanent." Marcus sat, silent, his defenses gone. His badge, his identity was ash. An officer handed him his belongings. In the hallway, Clara Evans watched, her steady gaze a silent victory. Reporters mobbed Marcus outside, questions relentless. "Regret it? What now?" He said nothing, his mind numb, his steps heavy. The weight of his actions crushed him. No words could undo the damage. His reputation was destroyed, his career a memory. The courthouse buzzed behind him, moving on without him. Marcus's fall was complete, a warning to others. His prejudice had built a cage, and now he was trapped, facing a world that no longer respected him. Marcus paused outside the precinct, staring at the building that had been his life for 15 years. The loss hit like a punch. He'd thought his badge made him invincible, a ruler over those he deemed lesser. Now, stripped of power, he saw his mistake. Dr. Vanessa Morgan's calm authority had undone him, and justice had prevailed. As he walked away, the world moved forward, but Marcus was stuck, haunted by his hubris. Meanwhile, James Carter strode through the precinct, his steps echoing. Sergeant Brooks stood behind his desk, feigning calm, but his eyes betrayed fear. James didn't flinch. "You'll unlock those cuffs," he said, voice like steel, "and apologize to Alicia Carter for every second she's been here because of your bias." Brooks's authority crumbled. Brooks opened his mouth, but James cut him off. "This isn't procedure, it's profiling. You targeted her for being black." The precinct fell silent, officers shifting uneasily. James's gaze pinned Brooks. "Say her name and make this right," he demanded. Brooks hesitated, then grabbed the keys, his hand trembling. James followed, a storm of resolve. At the cell, Brooks paused, voice low. "Alicia Carter, you're free." He unlocked the cuffs, muttering, "I'm sorry." Alicia stood, rubbing her wrists, her silence deafening. She walked past him, joining James. Their eyes met, no words needed. They left the precinct, the air outside sharp with freedom. Cameras gathered, reporters shouting, but the Carters didn't stop. Their silence spoke louder, a promise that this injustice would not be forgotten. The precinct faded behind them, a symbol of a flawed system. Weeks later, Alicia's arrest video went viral, sparking nationwide outrage. She wasn't just James's wife. She was a symbol for black women targeted for existing in wrong spaces. Alicia chose to speak, addressing rallies and forums. "I'm not the first," she said at a justice summit, voice firm. "Without change, I won't be the last." James, at the FBI, pushed for reform, filing reports, testifying in hearings, driven by Alicia. Their fight was personal yet universal, demanding accountability. Richmond announced reforms: bias training, arrest oversight, community programs. Some scoffed, but black women saw hope in Alicia's courage. Her stand proved silence wasn't an option, and one voice could ignite a movement for change. James's steps echoed as he entered Brooks's office, his presence commanding. "You'll walk to that cell," he said, voice low, each word a blade. "Unlock those cuffs and apologize for your arrogance." Brooks's facade cracked, his authority gone. Silence hung, broken only by a flickering light. Brooks grabbed the keys, hands unsteady, and moved past James. At the cell, he faltered. "Alicia Carter," he mumbled, eyes down. "You're free. I'm sorry." Alicia rose, her wrists marked red. She didn't speak, her silence a rebuke. Joining James, their shared glance said everything. Outside, reporters swarmed, but the Carters walked on, unshaken. Alicia's story spread, her arrest a spark for reform. Her resolve, James's support, showed change was possible when the courage met action. Justice wasn't just a word, it was their fight. Months later, Alicia's voice grew louder. She spoke at universities, her story a call to action. "Silence fuels injustice," she told a packed hall. "We must fight." James drove FBI investigations, ensuring accountability, his work fueled by Alicia. Richmond's reforms expanded: de-escalation training, civilian rights policies. The black community found strength in Alicia's stand, trust slowly rebuilding. Her arrest, once a wound, became a rallying cry. Online, #JusticeForAlicia trended, uniting activists. The Carters pressed on, every speech and report a step toward fairness. Their legacy wasn't just reform. It was proof one moment could spark a revolution. Alicia hadn't chosen this battle, but she owned it, her courage a beacon. With James, she built a future where no one would face her ordeal again. Alicia and James stood together, their bond a fortress. Her speeches inspired thousands. His reports reshaped policy. Richmond's reforms, oversight, training, community trust, gained traction, driven by their fight. Alicia's story transcended her, a symbol of resilience. Meanwhile, Marcus faded, his name a cautionary tale. Dr. Morgan's face haunted him, her power a lesson in humility. He avoided the news, unable to face his shame. The courthouse moved on, but Marcus couldn't. His arrogance had cost everything. In contrast, the Carters thrived, their work reshaping a city. Forums grew, officers faced scrutiny, and civilians gained a voice. The reforms weren't perfect, but they were progress. Alicia's legacy proved one spark could ignite change, ensuring her pain wasn't in vain. Justice was their mission, and they wouldn't stop. Alicia's story exposed a bitter truth. One act of bias revealed a system's cracks. A black woman, guilty of nothing, faced prejudice for being where others thought she didn't belong. James, powerful yet helpless, saw his wife harmed by the system he served. Their response wasn't just defiance, it was a wake-up call. Change demands action. Transparency, oversight, bias training, human rights education. Communities can build fairer systems in 5 years, fostering accountable law enforcement. Will prejudice end by 2050? Likely not. But rejecting silence, choosing truth over fear, makes hope real. Alicia's legacy shows one voice can shift history. Her fight, James's support, proved justice isn't a dream. It's a goal worth fighting for, starting now, in every community, for every person. The Carters' fight reshaped Richmond. Alicia's speeches, James's reforms, sparked policies that empowered communities. Black women, long dismissed, found strength in her courage. The city's changes, training, oversight, trust, weren't a cure, but a start. Alicia's story, though fictional, mirrors real struggles, amplifying silenced voices. Her arrest, a moment of injustice, became a movement. James's quiet resolve ensured her pain drove change. Their legacy wasn't just reform, it was awakening. This tale, crafted to raise awareness, opposes prejudice, violence, and injustice. It calls for reflection, action, and dignity for all. Let it inspire us to challenge bias, demand accountability, and build a world where justice is universal. Viewer discretion is advised, but the message is clear. Silence is complicity, and change begins with us, today. Alicia's journey, though imagined, echoes countless truths. Her arrest video, viral and raw, forced a reckoning. She spoke not as a victim but a survivor, her words igniting forums, summits, and hearts. James's FBI work, reports, hearings, reforms, never wavered, driven by love and justice. Richmond's policies from training to oversight set a model. Some resisted, but many embraced the hope Alicia inspired. Her story wasn't just hers. It was every Black woman's, every person's demanding respect. The Carters showed one moment could change a system, if met with courage. This fictional tale, built to provoke thought, urges action, transparency, education, accountability. Prejudice may linger, but hope grows when we act. Let's start now, ensuring no one faces Alicia's pain again. From Alicia's story, we see injustice's stark reality. A Black woman, faultless, was targeted for existing. James, despite his authority, couldn't shield her from a flawed system. Their fight wasn't just resistance, it was a blueprint. Change needs transparency, oversight, and education, starting in our communities. By 2030, we can build fairer law enforcement, accountable, and empathetic. Will racism vanish by 2050? Perhaps not. But silence is the enemy. Truth, action, and courage make hope attainable. Alicia's legacy, though fictional, is a call to rise. Her pain, James's resolve, show one voice can spark thousands. This story, created to awaken, opposes injustice in all forms. Let it drive us to act, to ensure dignity and justice for all, now and forever. Note: this story is fictional, designed to highlight justice, responsibility, and respect. It reflects real-world issues, giving voice to those unfairly targeted. Alicia Carter's journey mirrors the resilience of Black women everywhere. Her fight, with James's support, shows change is possible through courage and action. Richmond's reforms, though imagined, are achievable. Training, oversight, community trust. This tale isn't just a narrative, it's a challenge to reflect, act, and build a world where justice is a right, not a privilege. We oppose prejudice, violence, and injustice unequivocally. Let Alicia's story inspire us to confront bias, demand accountability, and create fairer systems. Viewer discretion is advised, but the call is clear. Start today in every community, for every person, to make hope a reality. Alicia's legacy endures, a fictional yet powerful testament to justice. Her story, born to raise awareness, underscores the cost of prejudice and the power of resistance. James's unwavering support turned pain into progress. Their work, speeches, reforms, courage, reshaped a city, inspiring a nation. This tale, though crafted, carries truth. One moment of injustice can awaken thousands. It demands we act, through transparency, education, and accountability, to ensure no one faces Alicia's ordeal. Prejudice may not end soon, but hope grows when we refuse silence. Let this story, opposing all forms of injustice, urge us to build a world of dignity. Start now, in every heart, every community, to make justice not a dream, but a reality. Viewer discretion is advised, but action is essential. In the echoing halls of Richmond's courthouse, Marcus Reed's fall and Alicia Carter's rise unveil a searing truth, igniting lessons that burn like wildfire. First, prejudice is a poison that blinds even those cloaked in authority. Marcus, 42, strutted with a badge he thought made him king, his polished boots clicking 30 feet down marble corridors, only to crumble when he misjudged Dr. Vanessa Morgan, 38, as lesser. His arrogance, a 15-year habit, sparked a scandal that spread 500 miles online, stripping his career to ash. The lesson screams, bias, unchecked, builds a cage for the biased, locking them in shame. Second, one voice, resolute, can shatter silence and reshape a city. Alicia, 36, cuffed for buying coffee, stood unbowed, her eyes blazing with defiance. With James Carter, 45, by her side, her story traveled 1,000 miles, sparking reforms, bias training, oversight, trust, across Richmond's 62 square miles. Her words, "I'm not the first, but I won't be the last," echoed in forums, a clarion call for action. The air grew thick with hope as black women, long dismissed, found strength in her courage. Yet the fight isn't over. By 2030, we can demand transparency and accountability, ensuring no one walks 10 steps in fear of profiling. Marcus's ruin, Alicia's triumph, prove it. Prejudice destroys, but resilience rebuilds. This fictional tale, born to awaken, demands we act, today, in every community, across America's 3.8 million square miles, to forge justice not as a dream, but a reality. Will bias fade by 2050? Perhaps not. But with every voice raised, every step taken, hope becomes a force no badge can silence. What lessons from Marcus Reed's downfall and Alicia Carter's courage inspire you to fight injustice in your community? Share your thoughts below, hit that like button, and comment to spark change. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for more powerful stories that ignite hope and action, delivering value to transform our world, one voice at a time. Let's build a future where justice thrives. Join me today.